gang. Your old friend Jetty Cotta. Heading off, not to the Spelonken, but down to the coastline, Geelong. I've got 2 nights booked in at the Admiralty Motel, which will be fun, but also I'm going on a ferry tomorrow. I'm going across to Sorrento, but there's a couple of Boer War things we're going to check out while we're down there. Also gives me an opportunity to have some maybe some nice Indian food. Tried that when I was up in Mildura a while back. Wasn't the best Indian food, but then I'm also tempted for Chinese. I love my Chinese food too. So, but tomorrow night will be pizza. Got the football match on between Hawthorn and Collingwood. My husband is Collingwood and I'm Hawthorn. So had a dust storm come through the other day with a bit of rain, which we haven't had for so long. We desperately need rain, and it's covered our cars in this red dust. It's probably come from the outback. So I'm going to stop and wash my car before I head down to the coast. I'm not going to use the freeway. I'm going to go inland through Bacchus Marsh. There's an episode on Bacchus Marsh where we went to the Boer War monument there. You might want to check that out if you're interested. But yeah, we go over the mountains and head down to Geelong that way. Also of interest is a book I read once upon a time, a few years ago, called The Devil's Grip, about a real life murder that took place down in Geelong, or near Geelong, of a sheep farmer. So I want to investigate that a little bit. So, alright, I'll settle in, put some music on, some 70s classics, Uriah Heep, and Jethro Tull, Black Sabbath, some Purple, and yeah, buckle in for the journey.
The South Australians charge at Grootvallia's farm, Grootvlei, the 2nd of August 1901. The enemy was firing at us from 10 and 15 yards. The 5th and the 6th South Australian Imperial Bushmen, under the command of Captain, later Major, Shea, were part of Delisle's column operating against Smuts in the Orange River colony. In a surprise attack, they dealt the Boer commander a severe blow at Grootvlei farm near the Fett River. Captain J.A. Watt, who was commanding the 5th South Australians after the death from enteric fever of their commander, Captain M.G. Hipwell, in Kroonstad on late May 1901, later received the Distinguished Service Order for gallantry for this attack, as well as consistent good leadership. 2 others received the Distinguished Conduct Medal. It was one of the few occasions that Australians used their bayonets on the enemy. Trooper Arthur William Errington of the 5th Contingent, writing to his father from Bloemfontein on the 14th of August 1901, described the event. Quote, "We left Klerksdorp on July the 28th and travelled along the Vaal River. The first day out we caught a prisoner who was reckoned the best shot in the district. The next day we still kept along the Vaal, and that night all the South Australians got orders to leave camp at 11 o'clock for a night march. It was bitter cold. After travelling for 4 hours we came to a drift, so we left 50 men there to catch any that got away from the rest of us. We went on about 10 miles further until we came to a drift on the Volch River. As we were coming to it, we saw their campfires, so we thought there was sport ahead. 4 of us crept on our hands and knees to the river and found a drift. We then got the order to charge it, and we did, and we were on top of them before they knew where they were. We got the lot, 30 prisoners and rifles, besides a lot of ammunition. 2 of the Boers were shot dead in the fight, so we had to bury them there. We got 6 wagons, 4 Cape carts, women and children, besides a lot of cattle and horses. We were 17 hours in the saddle that day before we got back to camp, so we were pretty tired and did not want any rocking to sleep. We had 2 days easy work except a bit of sniping until we crossed over the Vaal again, and then on the night of the August the 1st, the South Australians got orders to march to the Feth River. We were told there were a lot of Boers there and to be careful. After travelling all night, we brought their fires inside about half an hour before daylight, so all lined up for the charge because they were in a house, so it was no good waiting for daylight or else we would have got it too hot. What with us cheering and them firing and yelling, it was terrible to hear in the dark. We got caught in a barbed wire fence. Then we got it warm. The enemy firing at us from 10 and 15 yards. All we could see was the flash of the rifle. We had 2 men wounded and 4 horses shot dead before we got cover. Then we gave it to them with the bayonet. Just as it was breaking day, we had them quiet for the time being. Then we started to look to see who had gone down because we were right in amongst them. We expected to have half our men gone, but to our great joy we found only 2 men wounded. One was Jim Whittington. He was shot in the right side and was in a low state. They thought he would die, but he's getting on all right now. The other chap was hit in 3 places, but none of them was serious. Then we turned our attention to the Boers. Some of them had the bayonet right through them. There were 7 killed and 1 wounded and 13 taken prisoner, besides 40 horses, saddles and bridles, 25 rifles, 1,500 rounds of ammunition. Then we found we were surrounded and had no chance to get away, so we got into position for another attack. But after waiting for a couple of hours, we were reinforced by Pom-Pom and another 100 men. They cannot stand the Pom-Pom, so they scattered in all directions. They got it hot coming with a gun. 2 men wounded, 1 since died. Towards night, the rest of them came up and the prisoners had to bury their dead. The next day we crossed the river and the colonel lined us up and read us a letter. He said that the charge made on that farm was worthy of the best traditions of any Australian contingent. All the Plimpton lads were in that fight, and they were all right. The awards for bravery were given to the men on the occasion of the charge. The details of this were provided by a war correspondent to the Register, Adelaide, and published on the 23rd of September 1901. It reads, "Everyone was yelling and shouting, and the terrified enemy, tumbling out of bed, rushed to their rifles and commenced firing wildly. A Boer picket was galloped over and carried along in the general rush until a stout barbed wire fence was met there, which stopped us for a time. Wire cutters were at work in an instant, but there was no time to waste. One half of our force had got up to the house from the front, and the Boers were rushing madly for their horses and then clearing for the scrub. 'This way, here's an opening,' cried one burly country lad, who had found a gap in the fence which had cost us so many prisoners, and in less than half a minute all hands were following pell-mell and closing round the house. 'Hands up! Hands up!' everyone was shouting. There was no time for hesitation, and a shot followed rapidly if an enemy did not comply. The officers were using their revolvers, and round the house a little bayonet work was going on. 3 burghers were caught in bed, but the majority of them made a desperate fight for freedom. There was no surrender except at point blank, and even then the Boers would not in every case throw up their hands. A party hurried down to the scrub from which the Boers were pouring a heavy fire to prevent the escape of further numbers of Boers. One of our sergeants rode up from behind a bush and presented his rifle fair at a dismounted man who was rushing for the river. 'Hands up!' he shouted, but the Boer replied in broken English, 'Hands up yourself, you bastard!' and fired at the daring colonial, who would not reckon on such an instant and desperate answer. Luckily the shot went wide, and although a dozen rifles cracked simultaneously, that Boer got away. Captain Watt, who was foremost in the charge, bowled up a big fellow, who levelled his weapon and twice snapped it at the captain's head. Clogged by frost, his rifle refused to fire, and the trooper pushed the point of his bayonet to within an inch of the Boer's face, and then took him prisoner. 4 of the enemy were shot as they rushed from the house, and the 5th, a perfect giant, was bayoneted by trooper Tom Kermode, who was then knocked over by a Martini bullet, which struck him in the leg. The confusion during the charge was bad enough, but the place resembled pandemonium at this time. On all sides, friends and foes were engaged in hand-to-hand combat, and men who had lost their way were cooey, shouting out for their mates, while others were hurrying along with prisoners, fearful of a volley from their own side. Commode was lying where he fell some distance from the house, and some of us, seeing him struggling, rushed up and found that he had received 2 more wounds, apparently the result of our own firing. Pickets were hurriedly dispatched to all the surrounding ridges, partly to prevent the escape of any of the enemy who might still be within the cordon, and partly to prevent surprise by anyone who might come to the relief of their friends. A man was approaching one of the posts from the directions of the house. In answer to the challenge, he coolly said, "Good morning, you surely won't shoot one of your own men," and attempted to walk by. He was stopped, and then it was discovered that he was a Boer, wearing the uniform of the New South Wales bushman who passed through the district a few weeks previously. Lance Corporal J. Berry caught one of the enemy climbing a tree and promptly hauled him down.
Well, it's been a long time since we've done this, because there's not many of them left in Victoria I haven't done, but I've got to say that I've never approached a Boer War memorial and seen the park named after it. When I say park, it's a little corner. This is a terrace, only a few minutes from the motel, but what I'm going to show you guys absolutely blew my mind, and I haven't even looked closely at the monument yet. But check this out. This is a first for it to be remembered like this. The memorial was there, just have a quick glimpse of it, but they've designated this corner, this little section, to the Boer War. You'll see what I mean in a moment. Look at this main road, Melbourne Road. Look at that. Hey, that's amazing. That is fantastic. We're very close to Cardinia Park, the football ground. They've given you a little bench to sit on and contemplate the Boers, Dalaray, Botha, Kruger, Kotsi, Smuts. The British, of course, Hamilton, Gattaca, Buller, Roberts. Look at this though. The snoozing lion. Never seen anything like that. I'm declaring this the best monument in Victoria, here and now. Right? So let's have a look at it. Trooper Walter Clark, the 2nd Contingent, Mounted Rifles to the South African War on the 5th of July 1900, Dinaspoort. I don't know it. I've never heard of a battle at Dinaspoort. And also Corporal Wilson, 27th of December 1900. They've occupied Pretoria. He's probably died of disease. Look at this. It's brilliant. Hello, old fella. You've been resting here a long time. I think he's been here since 1902. Up there we've got the cannon, the cross cannon. We've got a sabre, a sword behind the shield of one flag, one nation, one destiny. Oak leaves of victory. Wow. And here's a modern thing. These are guys that gave their lives, that died from the Geelong district. George Button, June 1901, Shoeing Smith Albert, also 1901. Here's one from Imperial Bushman of New South Wales. Well, we got McCann died of the enteric, so did McCorkles, Moen, a Lieutenant Colonel Umfleby. I know a bit about him. Umfleby. There's the old dead flowers from Anzac Day. We remember them on Anzac Day. Hang on, here's a few more. Brilliant. Vicksburg. Dickinson of Thornycroft. There's Thornycroft. Did he know Willie Aitken? 17th of March, 3 months after Willie died. At Colenso, they're up in Vicksburg, which I think is the Orange Free State. We've got Harry Smith, Francis James of the Bushman's contingent, January 1902. That's fairly late in the war. Harry Smith is, I think, right up north of Natal, Orange Free State border. I went through, or saw Harry Smith on the way down to Natal. Look at this. Oh my God. As an historical marker of the South African War declared by the Boers, yes, they did declare it, on the 9th of October 1899, and of their defeat by Great Britain, the proclamation of peace. On the 2nd of June 1902, they heard their country's call and faced the foe. God of our fathers, known of old, Lord of our far-flung battle line, beneath whose awful hand we hold dominion over palm and pine. Lord God of hosts, be with us yet, lest we forget, lest we forget. And right in, see that big light? You know, the baying of the crowd and the yelling and applauding as Geelong kick another goal. Just over there. A good torpedo punt by Tom Hawkins, the retired forward from Geelong. He could have punted a torpedo from here across into the ground. So that's how close we are to the goings on of Geelong. But I'm absolutely gobsmacked. Right, here's another one. Unveiled in 1902 under King Edward VII. My goodness. I'm blown away. Never known a monument this good. Well, we're going to try and get some photos of it. Alright. Stop recording.
The Age newspaper, Melbourne, the 22nd of December 1902. Quote, the obelisk erected in Cardinia Park to perpetuate the memory of Eric Wilson, Walter E. Clark, Arthur Dickinson and Francis James, 4 Geelong residents who lost their lives in war, was unveiled on Saturday afternoon by Colonel J.L. Price. The ceremony was impressive. Relatives of the deceased soldiers occupied seats on the platform, and the Geelong Battery of Garrison Artillery Band also assisted. The obelisk is constructed of Stawell stone. The monument was erected by public subscription in 1902 and commemorates 4 men who died in the South African Boer War. The memorial was also erected as a historical mark of the Boer War and the proclamation of peace on the 2nd of June 1902.